Good morning, my dear students. Today in DP, we are going to continue the same chapter, that is electoral politics. Children, in our previous classes, we have studied about why do we need elections, what makes an election democratic, and today we will start with, is it good to have political competition? Children, elections are all about competition. This competition takes various forms. The most obvious form is the competition among political parties. Children, at the constituency level, it takes the form of competition among several candidates. If there is no competition, elections will become pointless. But is it good to have a political competition, children? Clearly, an electoral competition has many demerits. It creates a sense of disunity and factionalism in every locality. You would have heard of people complaining of party politics in your locality or in your surroundings or even at your home. Different political parties and the leaders often level allegations against one another. Parties and the candidate often use dirty tricks to win elections. Some people say that this pressure to win electoral fight does not allow sensible long-term policies to be formulated. Children, because of this, some good people who may wish to serve the country do not enter this arena. They do not like the idea of being dragged into unhealthy competition. Our constitution makers were aware of these problems, yet they opted for free competition in elections as the way to select our future leaders. Children, why did they do so? They did so because this system works better in the long run. In an ideal world, all the political leaders know what is good for the people and are motivated only by a desire to serve them. Political competition is not necessary in such an ideal world, but that is not what happens in a real life. Children, political leaders all over the world, like all other professionals, are motivated by a desire to advance their political career. They want to remain in power or get power and position for themselves. They may wish to serve the people as well, but it is risky to depend entirely on their sense of duty. Besides, even when they wish to serve the people, they may not know what is required to do so, or their ideas may not match what the people really want. How do we deal with this in a real life situation? Children, one way is to try and improve the knowledge and character of political leaders. And the other and the more realistic way is to set up a system where political leaders are rewarded for serving the people and punished for not doing so. Now, here, who decides this reward or punishment? The simple answer is we the people. This is what electoral competition does. Regular electoral competition provides incentives to the political parties and leaders. They know that if they raise issues that people want to be raised, their popularity and the chances of victory will increase in the next elections. But if they fail to satisfy the voters with their work, they will not be able to win again. So, if a political party is motivated only by desire to be in a power, even then it will be forced to serve the people. Children, can we say that Indian elections are democratic? To answer this question, let us take a look at how elections are held in India. Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. Elections are held regularly after every 5 years. After 5 years, the term of all the elected representative comes to an end. The Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha stands dissolved. Elections are held in all the constituencies at the same time, either on the same day or within a few days. This is known as general elections. Sometimes elections is held only for one constituency to fill the vacancy caused by death or resignation of a member. This is called by-elections. Now, electoral constituency. Children, in our previous class, we have read about the people of Haryana electing 90 MLAs. You may have wondered how they did. Did every person in Haryana vote for all the 90 MLAs? You perhaps know that this is not the case. Children, in our country, we follow an area-based system of representation. The country is divided into different areas for the purpose of elections. These areas are called electoral constituencies. The voters who live in an area elect one representative for Lok Sabha elections. The country is divided into 543 constituencies. Children, remember this. For the Lok Sabha elections, the country is divided into 543 constituencies. The representative elected from each constituency is called a Member of Parliament or MP. One of the features of democratic election is that every vote should have equal value. That is why our constitution requires that each constituency should have a roughly equal population living within it. Similarly, each state is divided into a specific number of assembly constituencies. In this case, the elected representative is called the Member of Legislative Assembly or an MLA. Parliamentary constituencies has within it several assembly constituencies. The same principle applies for panchayat and municipal elections. Each village or town is divided into several wards that are like constituencies. Each ward elect one member of the village or the urban local body. Sometimes these constituencies are counted as seats. For each constituency represents one seat in the assembly. When we say that Lok Dal won 60 seats in Haryana, it means that candidate of Lok Dal won 60 assembly constituencies in the state, and thus Lok Dal had 60 MLAs in the state assembly. Reserved constituency. Now we will see what is the meaning of reserved constituency. Children, our constitution entitles every citizen to elect his or her representative and to be elected as a representative. The constitution makers, however, were worried that in an open electoral competition, certain weaker sections may not stand a good chance to get elected to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. They may not have the required resources, education, and the contacts to contest and win the elections against others. Those who are influential and resourceful may prevent them from winning the elections. Children, if that happens our parliament and the assembly would be deprived of the voice of significant section of our population. That would make our democracy less representative and less democratic. So, the constitution makers thought of a special system of reserved constituency for the weaker sections. Some constituencies are reserved for the people who belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. In scheduled caste reserved constituency, only someone who belongs to scheduled caste can stand for elections. Similarly, only those belonging to the scheduled tribe can contest an election from the constituency reserved for ST. Children, our Udaipur also comes under the reserved constituency. Currently, in Lok Sabha, 84 seats are reserved for scheduled caste and 47 for the scheduled tribes. This number is in proportion to their share in the total population. Thus, the reserved seats for SC and ST do not take away the legitimate share of any other social groups. This system of reservation was extended later to other weaker sections at the district and the local level. In many states, seats in rural and the urban local bodies are now reserved for OBCs as well. However, the proportion of the seats reserved varies from one state to another. Similarly, 1/3 of the seats are reserved in rural and the urban local bodies for women candidates. Now, voter list. Children, once the constituencies are decided, the next step is to decide who can and who cannot vote. This decision cannot be left to anyone till the last day. In a democratic elections, the list of those who are eligible to vote is prepared much before the elections and given to everyone. This list is officially called electoral roll and is commonly known as voter list. This is an important step, for it is linked to the first condition of a democratic election, that is, everyone should get an equal opportunity to choose the representative. In practice, it means that everyone should have one vote and each vote should have equal value. No one should be denied the right to vote without a good reason. Different citizens differ from one another in many ways. Some are rich, some are poor, some are highly educated, some are not so educated or not at all educated. Some are kind, others are not so kind, but all of them are human beings with their own needs and views. That is why all of them deserve to have an equal say in decision that affects them. In our country, all the citizens aged 18 years and above can vote in an election. Every citizen has the right to vote regardless of his or her caste, religion or gender. Some criminals and the persons with unsound mind can be denied the right to vote, but only in rare situations. It is the responsibility of the government to get the names of all the eligible voters put on the voter list. As new persons attain voting age, names are added to the voter list. Names of those who move out of the place or those who are dead are deleted. A complete revision of list takes place every 5 years. This is done to ensure that it remains up to date. In the last few years, a new system of election photo identity card EPIC has been introduced. The government has tried to give this card to every person on the voters list. The voters are required to carry this card when they go out to vote, so that no one can vote for someone else. But the card is not yet compulsory for voting. For voting, the voters can show many other proofs of identity like the ration card or the driving license. That's all for today, children. Thank you and have a nice day.